Get your hands where I can see them and step back right now.
You fit the description of a suspect we're looking for. I need you to come with me.
Clipped neatly to her chest. The air smelled of disinfectant and burnt coffee. She'd just completed a red-eye from Atlanta and was heading to brief her next crew. But when she stepped forward, Officer Reed's palm sliced the air. "Ma'am, random screening. Step aside." His tone wasn't random. Neither was the way his eyes flicked to her badge, then to her skin. Ava kept her voice level. "I'm crew. Captain Johnson, Delta Flight 723. He smirked. "You can call yourself whatever you want, ma'am. Step aside." Laughter rippled from the nearby line. Someone pulled out a phone. Ava's fingers clenched around her ID lanyard. She could feel the heat of humiliation rise under her collar, the kind that boiled slow, the kind that killed careers when answered wrong. "Is there a problem?" another officer asked. Reed didn't blink. "Just verifying she belongs here." Ava stared at him, a heartbeat too long. Every training on de-escalation, every warning about tone, screamed in her head. Her life reduced to a single misinterpreted word. Behind her, the intercom crackled. "Final boarding call for Delta Flight 723, Captain Johnson to the cockpit." The crowd froze. Reed's expression faltered. For a moment, his authority slipped, but his grip on her passport didn't. He looked down at the name embossed in gold, lips curling. "We'll see about that, Captain." And then, with the slow certainty of someone rewriting truth, he reached for his radio. The terminal went silent. The line moved like molasses. Ava adjusted her tie, the crisp navy uniform hugging her shoulders, stripes gleaming on her sleeves. The badge clipped to her chest read Captain A. Johnson. She'd walked through this terminal hundreds of times, never as a suspect. Officer Reed stood at the checkpoint, thumb grazing the rim of his holster, eyes scanning the crowd like predators hunt weakness. "Next." Ava stepped forward. The conveyor hum of luggage belts and the sterile buzz of fluorescent lights filled the silence. She handed over her passport and crew ID. He flipped through them lazily. "Purpose of travel?" "I'm flight crew. Delta 723, departing gate 47. He studied the documents again, jaw ticking. "You fly the plane?" "Yes," he snorted softly. "Right." The pause dragged. Conversations around them dimmed. "Is there a problem, officer?" He leaned closer. "You tell me. Got a lot of fake credentials floating around. Gotta be careful." Ava inhaled through her nose, controlled. "Those are issued by FAA and Delta Airlines." He looked past her to the next passenger. "Step aside," murmurs started. A man behind her whispered, "Guess she's not really a pilot." Another chuckled. Ava's grip tightened on her bag handle. "Officer, I have a flight to command in—" "Step aside." Two security staff approached, uncertain. Reed motioned them off. "Random screening." She moved, spine straight. "Then conduct it properly." He searched her belongings, methodically, almost leisurely. Her pilot's wings clinked against the tray. Each metallic sound cut through her calm. When he reached her tablet, he froze. "You recording this?" "It's flight data." "Sure." He pocketed the device. "Excuse me." He raised a hand. "Ma'am, lower your voice." Ava's pulse pounded in her ears. A camera phone clicked from the side. Officer Reed, a TSA supervisor, finally said, approaching. "What's the issue?" "Credentials don't match," Reed said. The supervisor took the IDs, scanning them. "They match." Reed's jaw flexed. "Still need to verify." "Sir," Ava said quietly, "you're delaying an active crew member." The supervisor sighed. "Captain Johnson, please cooperate." "He's just doing his job." Her voice steadied like takeoff wind. "His job doesn't include harassment." Reed's face hardened. "Let's talk in private. Am I being detained?" He didn't answer. He gestured toward a gray door marked Security Office. She looked at the clock, 10 minutes to boarding. Every instinct screamed not to follow, but every consequence of defiance loomed larger. She walked through. The door shut with a hydraulic hiss, sealing the sound of laughter and rolling luggage behind her. Inside, no windows. Just a table, 2 chairs, and a flickering monitor. Reed stood between her and the exit. "You pilots think uniforms make you untouchable," he said, setting her credentials down like evidence. "Maybe this'll remind you who checks the sky." Ava didn't move. "You're out of line." He leaned in until his breath fogged her badge. "And you're grounded until I say otherwise." Outside, over the intercom, her name echoed through the terminal. "Captain Johnson to cockpit." She stared at the wall, jaw locked as the words repeated, each one peeling another layer off her composure. Reed smiled faintly. "Guess that plane's leaving without you." The intercom cut to static. The air in the room felt stale, recycled, the kind of air that carried whispers but no accountability. The blinds were drawn, though there were no windows to hide. A metal table stood at the center, 2 chairs on either side. Officer Reed sat across from Ava. Posture relaxed, arrogance settled deep in his shoulders. Ava kept her back straight. "How long will this take?" Reed clicked a pen slowly, deliberately. "Depends on how long it takes you to cooperate." She stared at the clock on the wall. The second hand had stopped moving. "I've already provided my credentials," she said, "and we're verifying them. See, thing is," he leaned forward, "we've had imposters come through before. People who pretend to be crew. You understand my caution," her tone sharpened. "I understand harassment." The door opened. Supervisor Holloway entered, his badge gleaming under the cheap fluorescent light. He was older, expression unreadable, voice flat. "Captain Johnson, I'm here to observe. Officer Reed says there's an issue with your identification." Ava placed her hands on the table, palms visible. "There is no issue. My documents are valid, FAA approved and registered in the airline database. I'm being detained without cause," Reed smirked. "Detained? Nobody's detaining you. You're free to go whenever we finish verifying your story." Holloway adjusted his tie, not meeting her eyes. "Let's just finish the process. It'll go faster if you don't get defensive." "Defensive?" Her voice cracked through the still air. "You've confiscated my tablet, delayed my flight, and now you're questioning whether I exist as who I am." Reed scribbled something on his clipboard. "See that attitude? That's what I mean, uncooperative." Ava's breath steadied. "Record this. I want a copy from my attorney." Reed's eyes flicked toward the body cam strapped to his vest. "It's recording," he said. But when he reached for the controls a moment later, his thumb pressed twice. A small red light blinked, then died. Ava saw it. "You turned it off." "No," Reed said, voice lazy, too casual. "Technical glitch." Holloway didn't react. He simply flipped through her credentials again. "You've been with Delta how long, Captain?" 7 years. "Any prior incidents?" "None," Reed snorted. "Guess today's your first." Ava's jaw tightened. "You're violating TSA protocol by interfering with a crew member's ability to report for duty. There's a federal code for that." Reed leaned back, balancing on 2 chair legs. "Funny. You talk a lot about codes, Captain. Maybe learn how to respect one." Holloway finally looked up. "Officer Reed, that's enough." The officer's grin didn't fade. "Just saying. She's got a chip on her shoulder." Ava's voice lowered to ice. "What you call a chip, I call survival." Silence spread like smoke. The hum of the light filled the space between them. Holloway cleared his throat. "We've run her name through the system. Everything checks out," Reed frowned. "You sure?" "Could be falsified." Holloway's tone hardened. "Enough." Reed's pen tapped the table. "Copy that, sir." He rose, tossed Ava's credentials onto the metal surface. "You can go." She stood without a word, gathering her things with movements so precise they felt surgical. Her tablet wasn't among them. "My device," she said. Reed's face was blank. "Didn't see one." "You took it," he shrugged. "Maybe you misplaced it." Ava's nails bit into her palms. Holloway turned toward the door, already halfway gone. "We'll have someone contact you if it turns up." She followed him out into the corridor, narrow, fluorescent, endless. Her reflection blurred against the metal walls. Behind her, Reed's low voice carried faintly, "Some people just don't know their place." Holloway didn't respond. He just walked faster. At the end of the hall, a sign pointed to exit in peeling red letters. Ava stopped. "Supervisor Holloway." He turned. "I want a record of this encounter." He sighed. "You can file a report through official channels." "I will." His eyes softened for a moment, then retreated back behind the glass of bureaucracy. "Take my advice, Captain. Let it go. Nothing good comes from stirring this kind of thing." She looked at him, really looked. The years of compromise etched into his face, the quiet surrender of someone who'd learned to survive by looking away. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "That's the difference between us, sir. I've already flown through worse storms. He didn't answer. Outside, the airport bustled loud and oblivious. The terminal lights hit her eyes like interrogation lamps. Her phone buzzed. A message from flight operations. Delay reported, replacement captain assigned. Contact HQ ASAP. She stared at the screen until the words blurred. Around her, cameras flashed, whispers followed. A stranger murmured, "That's her." The pilot they stopped. Ava straightened her collar, picked up her cap, and walked into the noise. Behind her, in the windowless room, Reed sat alone, deleting the footage from his vest. The red light blinked once more, then vanished completely. The concourse was already a blur of boarding calls and rolling suitcases when Ava stepped back into the light. The terminal had the hum of ordinary life. People arguing over gate numbers, coffee lids snapping on, toddlers crying near vending machines. But in the middle of it, a small cluster of cell phones still hovered in her direction. Someone whispered, "That's her." Another voice added, "The officer was right there, kept her for like 15 minutes. Ava adjusted her cap and walked toward the crew gate. The air felt heavier now, like her uniform itself carried accusation. At the Delta counter, a junior attendant stiffened when she approached. "Captain Johnson," Ava said evenly. "I need access to Flight 723. The attendant hesitated. "Captain, your replacement's already boarded." The words hit with mechanical precision. Ava's jaw flexed. "Replacement?" "Yes, ma'am. Operations reassigned command 10 minutes ago. Flight departed 3 minutes ago." The sound of her own pulse filled the silence. "Understood," she said, voice clipped, emotion folded into discipline. Behind her, someone muttered, "Guess she wasn't supposed to be flying anyway." She turned, just enough for the whisper to die mid-breath. Then she walked toward a bench near the window overlooking the runway. Flight 723 taxied into motion, white lights blinking across the tarmac. Her seat, the captain's seat, moved away without her. Her phone buzzed. "Operations HQ. Report immediately to scheduling. Incident under review." She didn't move. The message repeated. Then a second notification, a video link from her brother Malcolm. "Ava, someone posted this. It's already spreading." She tapped. The screen showed the checkpoint, shaky footage from a bystander's phone. Reed's hand slicing through the air. Ava's calm voice steady as training demanded. The words "random screening," then her name being called over the intercom. "Captain Johnson to cockpit." The crowd's awkward silence. Reed's smirk, the moment he reached for his radio. The clip ended mid-frame. 10 seconds of humiliation, replayed infinitely. In the reflection of the glass, Ava saw herself. Not the woman in command of 100 tons of steel, but a silhouette the internet had already started to dissect. Her radio pinged again, the crew liaison's voice careful and detached. "Captain Johnson, please come to crew administration." The corridor to admin felt longer than usual. Every conversation hushed as she passed. The walls carried the sterile scent of professionalism and avoidance. Inside the office, a man in a navy blazer stood behind a desk. Mr. Baird, operations supervisor. His expression was polite to the point of cruelty. "Captain Johnson," he said. "Please have a seat." She didn't. "Why was I replaced?" He gestured vaguely. "Procedural necessity. You weren't at the gate during final call. I was detained by airport security. Without cause." He nodded once, as if agreeing with gravity itself. "Unfortunate. However, until that's resolved, command has instructed a temporary suspension pending review." Ava's hand twitched. "Suspension?" "Standard protocol during investigation. I haven't been accused of misconduct." Baird folded his hands. "Captain, this isn't disciplinary, it's administrative." The euphemism landed like a punch. "You're grounding me, temporarily." He forced a thin smile. "Best to let the situation cool. We value your service." "Cool," she repeated, "while my reputation burns online?" His smile didn't falter. "Social media storms pass. Keep a low profile." She stared at him, at the perfect alignment of his tie, the framed corporate slogans behind him, the safety poster reading, Integrity is altitude. The irony was unbearable. Return your ID and company-issued devices, he added softly. Ava unclipped her lanyard. The snap of the plastic echoed like a gunshot. She set it on the desk, the pilot wings resting atop it, small, metallic, powerless. When she turned to leave, Baird said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." She stopped in the doorway. "You're not sorry, you're compliant." His face didn't move, but his silence confirmed it. Outside, she walked past the observation window, where Flight 723 disappeared into the clouds. The engines roared faintly, then nothing. She stood there until the sound was gone. Passengers streamed by. Some avoided her eyes. Others stared too long. The line between sympathy and suspicion was invisible but sharp. Her phone rang again, Malcolm's voice urgent. "Ava, it's going viral." "They're already spinning it. Some blogs are saying you refused screening. Others are calling it attitude." She closed her eyes. "Of course they are. Do you want me to?" "Not yet." She hung up before he finished. In the distance, through the glass, she saw a reflection. A man in uniform passing through the terminal, laughing with another officer. Reed. His posture unbothered. His job intact, her flight was gone. Her name was trending. And her silence, the only thing that ever kept her safe, had now become evidence against her. The HR building sat behind tinted glass, neutral and soundproof, the kind of architecture designed to absorb outrage. Ava walked through the automatic doors, uniform pressed, hair tied, every gesture still trained for composure. She signed her name on the visitor sheet. The pen trembled once, then steadied. "Captain Johnson," the receptionist said, tone clipped. "Second floor. Room 214. Miss Garvey's waiting." The elevator chimed softly, indifferent. Ava watched her reflection in the metal panel. Her face was calm, but the silence around it had changed, the kind that followed scandal. Room 214 smelled faintly of disinfectant and paper. Behind a desk sat HR liaison Karen Garvey, expression polished into corporate empathy. She gestured at the chair. "Captain Johnson, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." Ava sat. "I was instructed to report." "Yes," Garvey said, folding her hands. "We received notice of an incident at airport security involving you and an officer, as well as some online attention." "Online attention," Ava repeated flatly. Garvey nodded. "We understand how distressing this must be. I want to assure you the company takes all allegations of discrimination seriously." Ava leaned forward. "Then you've already reviewed the video?" "We've seen portions circulating on social media," Garvey said carefully. "But we can't confirm its authenticity until the official investigation concludes." "Authenticity," Ava said. "It's me in uniform. The timestamp matches my duty schedule. There's nothing to authenticate." Garvey's smile thinned. "We're simply following process. In the meantime, you're on administrative leave with pay. Please refrain from public statements or social media engagement regarding the matter." "In other words," Ava said, "stay silent. It's for your protection." Ava looked at her directly. "No, it's for containment." The silence that followed was thick enough to feel. Garvey adjusted her folder. "Captain, we're not your adversary." "Then why am I grounded while he's still in uniform?" Garvey sighed through her nose. "We can't control airport security personnel. That falls under federal jurisdiction. Convenient division of responsibility. I understand you're upset." "No," Ava said evenly. "I'm insulted." The door opened. Malcolm stepped in, her brother, suit crisp, expression sharp. "Ms. Garvey," he said, voice professional but cutting. "I represent Captain Johnson. From this point, all communications go through me." Garvey straightened, tone switching to bureaucratic caution. "Of course. We welcome legal representation." Malcolm sat beside Ava, opened his briefcase, and set a folder on the table. "We've obtained a copy of the deleted footage." Garvey froze. "I'm sorry?" "An airport technician retrieved fragments from the officer's body cam cloud backup," Malcolm said. "Your employee liaison at security, Supervisor Holloway, was copied on the deletion request. Timestamp matches the incident." Garvey blinked once, twice. "I'm not authorized to discuss." "You are now," Malcolm said, "because this company will soon be named in a civil rights filing unless you cooperate." The air seemed to shift. Garvey looked from Malcolm to Ava, then back. Captain Johnson, she said softly, if you move forward legally, it will go public. You understand what that does to your career? Ava met her gaze. You mean what it does to your brand? Malcolm closed the folder. We'll expect a written statement of acknowledgement by end of week. Garvey exhaled, quiet defeat bleeding into her tone. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Ava stood. So was he. They left the room in silence. The hallway buzzed faintly with fluorescent hum. Ava's heels clicked against the tile. Steady, deliberate, the rhythm of control reclaimed. Outside, the sunlight hit her face like interrogation light. She put on her sunglasses, the world sharpening back into glare and noise. Malcolm walked beside her. You ready for this? Yes, she said. You sure? She didn't answer. They reached the parking lot. A white SUV idled across the lane. A man in civilian clothes stood by the driver's door, face half hidden by sunglasses. Reed. Malcolm noticed first. That him? Yes. Reed's smirk was casual, confident. He lifted his phone, pretending to scroll. Ava met his stare without blinking. After a few seconds, he got in the car and drove off, and slow, deliberate, like a man who believed consequence was a myth. Malcolm exhaled. He's rattled. No, Ava said. He's rehearsing. For what? For the story he's about to tell. That evening, Ava sat in her apartment, the city's low hum bleeding through the glass. The TV showed footage from the terminal, news anchors debating protocols and security discretion, racial bias claims. Her name blurred beneath a banner. Delta pilot incident under review. Her phone vibrated again. An internal memo leaked. Employee conduct unbecoming of uniformed staff. Pending full investigation. The narrative was turning. Against her, Ava stared at the screen, then turned it off. In the silence, she could still hear Reed's voice. You pilots think uniforms make you untouchable, she whispered to the dark. Not anymore. And then she began writing her statement, line by line, word by word, refusing to vanish. The morning after her statement was filed, Ava woke to the sound of her phone vibrating itself across the nightstand. Dozens of notifications stacked over each other. Messages, missed calls, emails, tags. She opened one. Then another, the video. The entire video. Not the shaky clip from before and the full footage. 8 minutes long, uploaded by a traveler named Lucas Tran. The caption read, Pilot detained for being black? You decide. She hit play. The angle was clear. Reed stopping her, smirking, mocking her title. The supervisor arriving, siding with him. Her restraint. The intercom announcing her name. Then the radio call, the cold defiance on his face. Everything she remembered, every humiliation, preserved in crystal resolution. The view count ticked upward by the second. Her brother called. It's everywhere, Ava. CNN, BBC, half of Twitter. Hashtag leatherflies trending. She sat up, still half in disbelief. I didn't post it. Doesn't matter who did. People saw what they needed to see. The TV came alive on its own. Autoplaying a morning segment. The clip shows Officer Reed detaining Delta Captain Ava Johnson under unclear circumstances. Cut to pundits. Was it profiling? Was it standard security? Doesn't matter. Optics are damning. Ava muted it. The noise was unbearable. Her email pinged. Internal advisory, media protocol reminder. The company wanted discretion while narratives develop. She almost laughed. Another call came. Karen Garvey, voice tight. Captain Johnson, please refrain from public comment. The matter is escalating beyond corporate control, Ava replied. It already did. Then hung up. Within hours, the footage had hit every outlet. Reed's smirk became a still image under headlines like pilot profiled at airport security and authority or abuse. Outside, protesters gathered at the airport. Signs read, Let her fly, ground racism, not pilots. Malcolm arrived at her apartment, laptop open, feeds streaming. Public opinion's a firestorm. But Reed's doubling down. How? He gave a statement to Channel 9. Claims you were agitated, refused screening, and that he feared noncompliance. She stared at him. Feared? Malcolm nodded grimly. Classic playbook. Paints you as the aggressor. Ava stood pacing. And people believe it? Some do. Others don't, the line splitting fast. He turned the screen toward her. Reed appeared, still in uniform, solemn-faced. I was following protocol. I support equality, but safety has no color, Ava muttered. That line's rehearsed. His union's backing him, Malcolm said. They're already fundraising for his defense, while I'm grounded. While you're silent, he corrected. The difference matters. That night, her phone lit up again, this time a message from a colleague. They've put you on indefinite leave. Official email coming. Moments later, it arrived. Subject: administrative status update. Body: pending investigation, your active flight status remains suspended. This measure is not disciplinary in nature. Ava closed her eyes. Every euphemism in corporate vocabulary sounded the same. Temporary, procedural, non-disciplinary. All of them meant erased. She walked to the window. Down below, protesters' chants faintly reached her apartment. Who checks the checkers? Who checks the checkers? The next day she was on the news again, but this time her voice. Malcolm had arranged a short interview on a morning segment. The anchor smiled tightly. Captain Johnson, what do you want viewers to understand? Ava's tone was calm, even clinical. That professionalism doesn't shield you from prejudice. I followed every rule, every policy. But rules only protect those the system already trusts. The anchor hesitated. Do you believe this was racism? Ava didn't blink. I believe it was assumption. An assumption is how racism hides. The clip went viral again. Within hours, her follower count exploded. Messages flooded in, pilots, flight attendants, passengers. Some thanked her. Some called her a liar. Delta released a brief statement. We value diversity and take this matter seriously. We are cooperating fully with airport authorities. Reed's police department countered. Our officer acted in good faith and within procedural limits. The public had its battle lines. Ava stayed quiet. Scrolling through comments, one from a retired pilot stood out. They did it to me in 1989. Nothing's changed except now there's video. Her throat tightened. She set the phone down. Malcolm appeared in the doorway. You ready for what's next? What's next? The counterattack. He placed a folder on the table. Screenshots of news briefs, union statements, social media trolls. All of it coordinated to discredit her. Claims she used her race card, allegations of unprofessional conduct. They'll drag you, he said flatly. It's how the system protects itself. Ava exhaled. Then we stopped playing defense, he looked at her. Meaning? Meaning I stopped being their silence. The next morning, she uploaded a statement to her own page. Short, measured, precise. I was detained, humiliated, and silenced for doing my job. I have nothing to hide. The footage speaks for itself. I will not disappear quietly. Within an hour, her words were quoted by every outlet. The balance began to shift. Journalists requested interviews. Airline employees leaked messages showing management knew about Reed's behavior but avoided confrontation. By nightfall, Reed's smirk wasn't just a meme, it was a symbol. And for the first time since the terminal, Ava didn't feel alone. She wasn't free yet, but the silence had finally broken, and the world, for once, was listening. The backlash arrived before dawn. Ava woke to another flood of notifications, but this time not of support. Her inbox was poisoned with headlines. Officer under attack by angry mob. Pilot story has holes. Fake victim narrative unravels. Malcolm called before she could process them. They flipped it. Reed's union just issued a statement claiming he's being targeted because he's white. She stood in the kitchen, coffee untouched, the air thick with static. They're weaponizing sympathy. They always do, Malcolm said. They've got lawyers, PR consultants, the department's media liaison. It's coordinated. Ava scrolled through the latest press release. Officer Daniel Reed has served with distinction for 11 years. He followed standard screening procedure in the interest of public safety. Any accusations of racism are false and damaging to law enforcement morale. Beneath it, a quote from Reed himself. I respect all people. I was just doing my job. The phrasing was surgical. Guilt scrubbed into neutrality. An hour later, HR called. Garvey again. Her tone was rehearsed calm. Captain Johnson, we've received concerning reports about your social media activity. I posted a factual statement, Ava said. Garvey replied, your comments have caused reputational risk for the company. We're obligated to review potential policy violations regarding external communication. Ava's silence stretched. You mean telling the truth? I mean conduct unbecoming of uniformed staff. So truth is unbecoming now. Garvey didn't respond. You'll receive a formal notice soon. I strongly advise legal discretion. Ava ended the call. Within hours, news outlets ran with the new angle. Pilot under investigation for policy breach. The shift was subtle but devastating. She was no longer the victim, but the subject of scrutiny. Malcolm appeared at her apartment, papers in hand. They're building a narrative that you violated confidentiality. The company's protecting its contracts with airport security. You're the expendable one. Ava stared out the window. So they're aligning with him. Self-preservation always outruns justice. The next day, she received the official letter. Suspension extended indefinitely, pending compliance review. She read it once, folded it in half and set it aside on the evening. Talk shows were dissecting her body language. Look at her tone, one commentator said. She's hostile. Another added, maybe she overreacted. We weren't there. Ava switched off the TV. They're not discussing the facts, she said. They're discussing me. Malcolm nodded. They're rewriting your identity until it fits their comfort zone. Outside protests continued. Smaller now, the crowd splintered by fatigue and counterclaims. Signs that once read, "Let her fly," now competed with others saying, "Support law enforcement." The next blow came that night. Her airline-issued tablet returned by courier, sealed in a plastic evidence bag. The screen was cracked, memory wiped. She powered it on anyway. Blank. A small note inside the package read, "Property returned. No data recovered." Her hand trembled. They erased everything. Malcolm looked at the device. They're trying to erase you. Ava sat down, exhaustion hollowing her posture. You ever wonder what justice costs? He said nothing. The following week, Reed appeared on a televised interview. The network dressed him in soft lighting, his tone quiet, humble. I've received threats, he said. My family's scared. All because of a misunderstanding. I was following my oath. Now I'm the villain. The interviewer nodded sympathetically. How does it feel to be called racist? Reed's voice cracked, perfectly timed. It breaks me. I've never treated anyone differently, but people see what they want to see. The segment ended with slow piano music. Ava watched from her couch, expression unreadable. They made him the victim. Malcolm closed his laptop. It's PR warfare, and you're the collateral damage. The next morning, she found her car keyed. 2 words scratched into the paint. Liar pilot. No witnesses. No camera coverage. At the police station, the desk sergeant barely looked up from his screen. Probably just kids, he said. File a report online. She left without finishing the form. That night, the city lights flickered against her window. Somewhere in the distance, a plane roared through the clouds, another crew. Another flight she should have commanded. Ava picked up her phone and opened a new email draft to her attorney. Subject, Reed, complaint escalation to federal level. She typed, enough containment. We move now. She hit send. Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of engines departing into the dark, metal rising above silence, defiance in motion. The morning the story turned, it wasn't on television. It was buried deep in a digital thread by one anonymous post from an airport staffer. Check the security logs. Officer Reed flagged a black pilot for ID verification that wasn't required. Passenger queue camera caught everything. The post included a timestamp, badge number, and partial screenshot of internal footage. Reed confronting Ava, his smirk visible under the fluorescent glare. The frame showed her credentials extended, his hand blocking the scanner. The caption read, Procedure? Within an hour, the image spread across social media. By noon, journalists were calling it the footage. Ava sat at her kitchen table as Malcolm burst in, phone vibrating nonstop. It's out, he said. Someone leaked the video. The entire exchange, her breath caught. You're sure? He handed her the phone. See for yourself. The clip played in silence. Airport audio muted, subtitles overlaid. Reed's posture, his dismissive gestures, his words caught on an auxiliary mic. You people always think the rules don't apply to you. The line hit like a gavel. Ava stared at the screen. He said it. On record, Malcolm nodded. Every network's scrambling. The department can't spin this now. By late afternoon, major outlets ran with the headline, Airport officer's racist remark caught on video. The footage looped on cable panels. Reed's department issued a temporary administrative leave statement. Ava's phone rang. Unknown number. Captain Johnson? The voice was clipped, legal. This is Investigator Sloan, Office of Civil Rights. We've received the video. You'll be contacted for an official deposition within 48 hours. Understood, she said. Malcolm smiled for the first time in weeks. They can't bury it now. But the war shifted. By evening, trolls flooded her feeds again. New conspiracy threads claiming the video was doctored, the audio fabricated. Anonymous accounts accused her of orchestrating the leak herself. They don't even need truth, she said, scrolling through the bile. They just need confusion. Stay focused, Malcolm said. We go official. Let the evidence speak. The next day, the Civil Rights Office called her in. The room was cold, fluorescent, government gray. 2 investigators, 1 court reporter. She laid out every detail. The humiliation, the retaliation, the suspension. She spoke without dramatics, her tone stripped bare. Sloan took notes silently. Captain Johnson, we've corroborated the footage with internal records. The officer falsified procedural justification. The violation's clear. We'll proceed to formal hearing. Ava nodded once. Outside, reporters clustered by the steps. Cameras clicked like gunfire. She walked through them, wordless, chin steady. One shouted, Captain Johnson, do you forgive Officer Reed? She didn't break stride. Forgiveness isn't clearance. That evening, Reed's attorney appeared on national television. This is a smear campaign, he said. My client's record is spotless. The footage is taken out of context. He followed training. Ava watched from her couch. Malcolm muted the screen. They're circling the wagons. They always do, she said. 2 days later, another document surfaced. Internal chat logs from the airport's security staff group. Reed's messages, jokes, slurs, complaints about affirmative action hires. The leak was traced to an anonymous whistleblower. CNN ran the headline, Pattern of Racist Messaging Revealed. By nightfall, the department suspended 3 more officers. Ava received an official notice of reinstatement, temporary, pending operational review. She read the email twice before setting it down. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. Back in the air? She shook her head. Not yet. They're offering it to look clean. Then what's next? Court, full accountability. When the hearing began, Reed appeared composed, pressed uniform, wedding ring polished. But the footage rolled again. Every pause dissected, every word magnified. The judge's tone cut through the courtroom. Officer Reed, do you deny making this statement? Reed's jaw clenched. It was a misunderstanding. Do you deny obstructing a uniformed pilot during scheduled boarding? No, but answer yes or no, he hesitated. Yes. Ava sat behind the railing, expression unreadable. The judge turned toward the prosecution. Proceed with sanction request. The ruling came swift. Reed dismissed with cause. Department fined, and airport authority ordered to revise racial bias protocols. Outside, microphones flashed like sparks. A reporter called out, Captain Johnson, what does justice feel like? She stopped, faced the cameras. Expensive, she said. And late. The clip went viral within hours. That night, she walked alone along the tarmac. The engines in the distance roared, silver wings slicing through darkness. Her reinstatement badge sat in her hand, cold metal. Heavy with irony, Malcolm's text arrived. You won, she typed back. No, I survived. She looked at the runway lights flickering in sequence, guiding other pilots toward ascent. Then she turned away. 6 months later, the terminal screen still carried her name. Captain Ava Johnson, Flight 214 to London, departed 2206. Routine now. Ordinary again. But the quiet had changed. The department held its press conference that morning. The final closure on the Reed case. The commissioner read the prepared statement with bureaucratic restraint. Following internal review, Officer Daniel Reed has been found in violation of civil rights policy and federal anti-discrimination statutes. He is hereby terminated from law enforcement service, effective immediately. The feed showed Reed walking out of headquarters, face obscured by sunglasses, no escort, no comment. His lawyer followed, head down. Ava didn't watch it live. She heard it over the intercom while performing pre-flight checks. The words came through static. Terminated from law enforcement service? She paused, eyes on the console. Took them half a year to do what they could have done in a day. Her co-pilot glanced over. Justice crawls when it's guilty. She didn't reply. After takeoff, the city below shrank into a field of faint gold veins. She looked down at the airport, the same checkpoint where it began. Somewhere beneath the terminal lights, the same gate, the same carpet where she had stood, ID in hand. Dignity bleeding slow and silent now. Altitude muted everything. At 30,000 feet, she loosened her grip on the yoke. The cabin was quiet except for the hum of turbines. She looked out the window and thought of the months between, the hearings, the threats, the silence. Her reinstatement hadn't restored what was lost. The word pilot still carried a question mark in too many mouths. Later, during the layover, she met Malcolm at a downtown cafe. He slid a folder across the table. Court summaries, restitution paperwork, press coverage. "It's done," he said. Officially closed. She skimmed the headlines. Pilot wins civil rights case. Reforms mandated at major airports. Her name appeared in legal precedent. But victory looked sterile on paper. "They cut him loose," Malcolm added. "No pension, no appeal." Ava closed the folder. "And he'll rebrand himself in a year. Security consultant, podcast guest." "They always resurface," Malcolm shrugged. "Public attention moves fast. But the record stands. That's permanence." She looked past him, out the window. "No, permanence is memory. And most people forget unless it burns." He nodded slowly. "You still flying tomorrow?" "Yes." "Good. Keep doing what they tried to stop." When she returned to the hotel, a message waited on her phone, an anonymous email. "I saw what they did to you. I work security. I've seen worse, but seeing you fight back changed something. Thank you." She read it twice, then deleted it. Gratitude wasn't the point. Structural decay was. Weeks passed. The airport replaced Reed's checkpoint with automated scanners. Posters went up about bias awareness and human dignity in enforcement. The slogans hung like apology notes to no one in particular. During a routine flight to Chicago, a young gate agent hesitated before checking Ava's ID. The pause was brief, almost imperceptible, but Ava caught it. The same flicker of doubt, the split-second evaluation, then recognition. "Captain Johnson," the agent said softly, handing back her card. "It's an honor." Ava nodded once and boarded. Halfway through the flight, turbulence rattled the cabin. Passengers stiffened. Ava's voice came through the speaker. Calm, grounded, controlled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Please remain seated. We'll be through the rough patch in about 3 minutes." Her tone steadied them. Every syllable proof she belonged exactly where she stood. Later that evening, after landing, she walked through the terminal and saw the news on the overhead monitors. Commentary panels discussing racial equity in aviation. Her name came up again. Cited as precedent in policy reform, she kept walking. Outside, the wind was cold, the night unadorned. Across the street, a protest sign leaned against a lamppost, faded but legible. "Fly without fear." She stopped beside it for a moment. No cameras, no audience, just the echo of an unfinished war humming beneath the asphalt. Malcolm's voice played in her head. "Justice crawls when it's guilty." She exhaled once, slow and controlled. Then she turned toward the staff exit. As she walked, an incoming flight roared overhead, the jet's lights cutting through fog, one brilliant line against the dark. She looked up, expression unreadable. Not triumph. Not peace. Just endurance. The sound faded into distance, leaving only the quiet, a silence she'd earned by surviving it. The headlines dimmed within a month. The world digested its outrage and moved on. Airports went back to their rhythms, rolling suitcases, flight calls, perfunctory smiles. Only Ava's name lingered in the bureaucratic memory of policy manuals and training slides. In the crew lounge, younger pilots still whispered about her. Some with admiration, others with caution. That's her, the one who took the system to court. Ava heard them once and kept walking. Silence was cleaner than legacy. She'd stopped watching news segments. The last she saw of Reed was a local article. Former officer denied private security license. The accompanying photo showed him in civilian clothes, head down, walking into a courthouse for a hearing unrelated to her. Consequences had caught up, even without spectacle. But consequences didn't heal. On her next rotation, She flew back-to-back long hauls, London, New York, Dubai, staying in the cockpit more than in her apartment. The altitude offered distance no therapist could. At 35,000 feet, noise dissolved. Up there, every sound had purpose and turbine, radio, heartbeat. During one flight, a turbulence pocket hit unexpectedly. The plane jolted hard, trays clattering. Passengers gasped. Ava's voice filled the cabin, steady and low. Seatbelts fastened. We're correcting altitude. You're safe. Her co-pilot, younger, nervous, looked at her. You don't even flinch. She adjusted the heading. Fear wastes seconds. When the air smoothed, the silence in the cockpit felt earned. After landing, she received a formal invitation from the Civil Aviation Board. Keynote address at the annual Safety and Ethics Conference. Topic: Power, Accountability, and the Human Factor. She almost deleted it. Then she didn't. Weeks later, standing before the audience, uniforms, press, executives, she opened with a single sentence. The system didn't fail because it was flawed. It failed because it worked exactly as designed. The room went still. Cameras clicked. She spoke for 20 minutes, about bias masked as procedure, professionalism weaponized as cover, the fatigue of being doubted while being right. No anger, just precision. Her voice cut through the polite decorum like a scalpel. When it ended, applause came slow, uneven. Some hands clapping out of conviction, others out of obligation. Afterward, a board member approached. Captain Johnson, powerful talk, truly. She nodded once. Powerful won't fix it. He hesitated. Still, it's progress. Progress is a word people use when they're comfortable with delay. She walked away before he could respond. That night, back at her apartment, she took the reinstatement badge from her jacket pocket and placed it in a drawer. She no longer needed it as proof. On her kitchen counter lay the old tablet, the one the airline had wiped clean. She turned it over. The crack across the screen caught light. She didn't replace it. Scars were records, too. Outside, the city's hum folded into the night. She opened her window, letting in the sound of a plane departing, engines rising, faint but resolute. She thought of Reed, somewhere on the ground, stripped of uniform and authority. She thought of the nameless staffer who leaked the footage. She thought of every silence that had enabled it all. None of it made her whole, but it made the truth public. And that finally was irreversible. She closed the window and sat in the dark. The quiet wasn't peace, but it was hers. Tomorrow she would fly again. Same sky, different weight. No cameras this time. No headlines. Just altitude and the steady hum of machinery that obeyed physics, not prejudice. Up there, justice had no language and only balance. The morning light spilled through the glass wall of Gate 47. Ava stood in uniform, checklist in hand, posture precise. No cameras, no whispers. Just the ritual before flight. The air smelled of jet fuel and disinfectant. Neutral, mechanical, safe. Her crew assembled quietly. New hires mostly, fresh from training, looking at her with a mix of reverence and distance. They all knew the story, but no one mentioned it. That was how survival looked now. Respect wrapped in silence. She walked the length of the jet bridge, palm grazing the metal railing. The hum of the engines pulsed through the floor, alive and familiar. At the cockpit door she paused. The space felt smaller than memory, or maybe she had simply outgrown it. After takeoff, the clouds formed a white corridor. Sunlight refracted across the glass, breaking into shards that flickered across her face. The world below flattened, cities, borders, conflicts reduced to pattern. At cruising altitude, the first officer adjusted the throttle. You've flown this route more than anyone, he said. Familiarity isn't mastery, she answered. He smiled faintly. Still, you make it look easy. It isn't. Hours later, they began their descent. The radio crackled with air traffic control instructions, clipped and clinical. Her hands moved with muscle memory. Flaps, thrust, gear, sequence. No hesitation. Every input deliberate. Every correction exact. The runway came into view through a wash of haze. She aligned perfectly, touched down with barely a jolt. The cabin erupted in quiet applause from passengers who had no idea who she was. After taxi and shutdown, she waited until the others disembarked. The empty aircraft echoed faintly, switches cooling, metal settling. She sat alone in the cockpit, headset off, looking at the horizon through layered glass. For the first time, she let stillness last. On the tarmac below, a maintenance worker raised a hand in brief acknowledgement. She returned it, a silent exchange between people who kept the machinery moving while the rest of the world argued about symbols. Her phone buzzed once. A news alert. Federal court upholds anti-discrimination mandate in airport security policy. Johnson standard becomes model nationwide. She read it without emotion. The name meant nothing now. The principle was what mattered. Outside, a storm gathered on the edge of the skyline, gray and slow, heavy with distance. She watched the clouds roll inward. Malcolm's last text sat unopened in her inbox. They want to interview you again. You could redefine aviation ethics. She didn't reply. Some battles needed silence more than spotlight. Instead, she powered down the instruments one by one. Each click punctuated closure, what a calm nav, aw, master. Darkness spread across the panel, clean and final. She stood, adjusted her jacket, and walked down the jet bridge into the terminal. A passenger stopped her briefly, a teenage girl, backpack slung over one shoulder. Captain Johnson? My mom showed me your story. I want to fly too. Ava studied her face, young, determined, unscarred. Then fly, she said. The girl smiled and ran off to her gate. Ava kept walking until the crowd thinned. She passed a security checkpoint. New scanners, new personnel. The sign overhead read equal access policy enforced. Zero tolerance for bias. She didn't stop. She didn't need to. Outside, the rain began. She stepped into it without cover, the drops cold against her skin. Somewhere behind her, another flight lifted into the storm, a hollow thunder wrapped in progress. She watched it disappear into the clouds, vapor trail dissolving. Justice hadn't healed her. It had merely cleared the sky. That was enough. She turned toward the parking lot, the lights reflecting off wet asphalt, and kept walking until sound itself fell away. No applause. No headlines. Just movement. Forward, unowned.